Sahana Vavatu, Sahanao Bhunaktu, Sahaviryang Karavavahai, Tejasvina Vadhitamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Aren't we lucky to cruise along the journey of the ocean, check out various depths of the ocean, come out, go to the shore, take a break, get lost in the forest, find a hut, take a break, make a fire, and grow some eggs, and go back to the ocean on your boat. And one day, you wake up, and in the distance, you can barely make out in the haze a mountain. You're unsure whether it's safe to go there or not, but you take a leap of faith. So you paddle. And as you paddle, the mountain becomes more and more clear. And you say, and you commit, you say, I'm going there. There's no turning back now. You finally land on this shore, and there is a hut in there. You walk inside a hut, and there are students there. And there's a teacher. Say, what are you learning? Where'd you come from? And they say, we came from the same place as you. We too were lost in the ocean, in the forest, cultivating some chickens. We too took a leap of faith. We landed and we found. We're no longer seekers, we're finders. And then they offer you a seat. You sit down, log in, and here you are. Then you ask, what's today's topic about? And then the teacher starts to say, we are in the fundamental verses of chapter 2, verse 12 and 13, which is the big vision, the big picture of this ocean that you've been swimming. What is it made of? How did it all come about? What are you doing here? What is your main purpose here? Where is it all going? Am I on the right path? And so the teacher says, behind you on the chart, you see that big picture. And that big picture will be demonstrated with this big circle. Now you, the traveler in that ocean, believe yourself to be this three-body Jiva, which we have discussed last week. And you talk about yourself as the one who has, my eyes are reducing. They're no longer as good as they used to be. My ears are not hearing very well. And so you build a complex about your eyes and ears. Or you reach over and you say, let me have some cake or some bread. Let's go to dinner. And so you exercise these faculties, these 5 organs of knowledge, which are there to receive the data from the world, to feed that data, and so that you can make sense of this entire world, this entire ocean that you're in. And when your eyes see that chicken in the distance, then you respond with your hands. You grab the chicken, you put it on, you place the chicken elsewhere, or you say something to that chicken. You're lonely, so you say, chicken, bad chicken. I used to live on a farm, by the way. We had a chicken farm, so maybe that's why I unconsciously chose chicken. Unimprovised story, by the way, so I'm just going along with the flow. So we had a chicken, and the chicken, my favorite chicken was called God in my language. God, G-O-D. In English, it would be God, but it's different. It's God. And she was a female chicken. And we used to pamper it, you know, and take care of it. It was like our pet. And but we used to bring on new chickens to our house for laying eggs and selling them. And there was this yellow guy, was a male, and he formed jealousy towards God, my favorite female chicken. He jumped on me and he scratched me. So we were not very happy about that. So one day my parents went to work and we gave him a little lesson. You don't want to know what happened. But then this yellow tree has kids, right? I was 9 years old, so please forgive me, Lord. But chicken survived. It was all good. But then we were leaving our country. And on the last day, we opened up our fridge and we said, oh, we're hungry. God is still alive. So like all our chickens, you know, they all went one by one and God had to also go. So one moment I was playing with God, the next moment God was in my stomach. This is the farm life. This is normal. So, you know, you wake up and there's a pig on a big stick. So this is normal farm life. So you use your speech, use your hands, use your feet to walk over and respond to this world so that you can get work done, right? It's a transactional world. And by doing so, you get feedback. Like, this is not the wise thing to do. And that feedback is inside, that feedback lets you know through an emotion, through the manas, that this is not a good thing to do, right? It's an unwise thing. So it gives you an emotion of sukham or dukkam or moha. Moha is where you're confused. You see something with your eyes and tongue and nose and so on, and you're not able to make sense of what is what, right? Is that a mountain in the distance? What is that? So now the intellect is busy working that out. It's trying to compare by the use of the memory. It says, based on what I've seen before in my life, something that looks kind of like a mountain, is that a mountain? And so you say, from the memory, you draw some inferences, some images, and the intellect says, yes, that's the mountain. And then the mind follows that up and says, great, we are now safe. And then you feel that jolt of excitement, right? You know, I'm going to be safe. Now, the ahamkara, we said, it's that mechanism that takes all of the data that the ears, skin, eyes, tongue, nose is bringing in to your subtle body. And that subtle body is generating conclusions about what it's seeing. It's bringing memories about what it's seen before, and it's generating emotions based on what it's seeing. But then the ahamkara, the sense of I, takes all of that and it says it's belonging here to one subtle body, not over there. You see, if you took out the ahamkara right there, if you took that out, then, because this is what we say in spirituality, you know, you got to destroy your ego. That's not possible. Because if you destroy your ego, then when you're hungry, you wouldn't know to whom hunger belongs. So you will start feeding your friend, right? So this means ego is not only that mechanism that localizes as though all this data that's happening to this subtle body, that it's happening to me, Brahman, it's happening as though happening to me, Brahman, but it also makes that person survive in this world, to figure things out, to say hi, right? And so on. So therefore, this Jiva now doesn't know who it is. It knows that I am. Everyone knows I am. That's not the big question. But I don't know what is it that I am. I don't know fully. Am I the subtle body? Am I my ears, my eyes, my sense of taste, and so on? Am I a little bit of my desires, right? The causal body? What am I? Therefore, because this ignorance, I come with this ignorance, two superimpositions get formed. The first one is all the so-called attributes, not that Brahman has an attribute, but the features of Brahman, for the lack of a better word, I'll call it features of Brahman, get mixed up with your three bodies. And therefore, Brahman, what's the nature of Brahman? We said last week, it's of the nature of existence and consciousness. So let's just take that one word, consciousness. Now that the whole thing here is being pervaded by Brahman, This is whole Brahman. Awareness is pervading the whole thing. Okay? That's why whatever happens in the subtle body, you say, this is happening, right? So in other words, you are that light that lights up whatever is happening to your subtle body. And then you say, I am going through a hard time, right? Or I'm confused. Why? Because I, Brahman, am shining on my intellect, which is still figuring things out. So, two kinds of superimpositions get formed. You say, I am conscious. But to what does that I to you refer to? This. Therefore, you say the all-pervading consciousness is only this much. That's the first superimposition. The second thing you say is, because the nature of Brahman is eternal, what do you then say? I want to be eternal. Who wants to be eternal? The body. You want to make your body eternal. You want to make your mind huge, vast. This is why we keep on working on the mind endlessly, all about performance techniques, all about refinement and making the mind super, ultra productive. This is all superimposition. That means I want to take that which is eternal and I want to bring it onto my mind. That's the first superimposition. The second superimposition is all of the features that belong to the physical, the subtle, with the causal and the causal, all those features now get superimposed on Brahman. So now, therefore, you say, I am smart, intellect. I am sad, manas. I am forgetful, memory. I am sore, the physical body. Two superimpositions. So your whole experience of I is now all mixed up. Who am I? Am I the physical body? Am I the conscious awareness? Am I the intellect? Am I the body that's strong and alert? Who am I? I don't know. But if there's one thing that I know, is that I am. Therefore, because I don't know that I'm Brahman, that I'm free of this entire show, which we said 2 weeks ago is generated by the power of Maya. Remember Maya? All knowledge, all power. And one of those generations has now taken place. That's called your physical body, with which you are listening with now. Your subtle body, which you are listening with now. And what's pervading your physical body, your subtle body? I am. And how is that I am known? It's always known to you as the presence in whose presence the changes in the subtle, the changes in the physical are always known to, you have to say, me. That me is always referring to Brahman. It cannot refer to anything here. The question goes like this: to whom is this appearing? To whom is this being revealed? To whom is this known to be changing? To whom is this known? The answer is always I. Okay. Therefore, if I don't have this knowledge, what happens? Then my I is as good as the so-called the Jiva, the being who's designed to respond in this world to get work out their stuff. And when they put an action out, then you get a consequence back. Sometimes it's a seen consequence. You feel good about caring for someone, but also later on, tomorrow or 5 days later, they open up an opportunity for you. They think of you. They say, hey, I just thought of you. I want to thank you for helping me 5 days ago. Look, there's an opportunity. I know you are into dancing, and I know 5 friends, and I'm going to let you know, I want you to get a ticket to this, dance, whatever club, because you helped me. And you go, wow, thank you. And you say, why has this happened? Because I have helped them before. So therefore, there is a seen consequence. There's also an unseen future consequence. Equally so, if I choose to transgress certain ethical standards, if I choose to ignore you, even though you need help, and it's obvious that I'm in position to help you out, then you notice that, don't you? You say, look, they're not doing anything. They're not walking up. They're not helping me. And what happens with you in reference to me? You form a grudge. And I also feel that because I know that I should be acting and doing something, but I choose not to. So not only do I have an unseen a drishtapala, an unseen dukkam, but in the future, when I see you again, what happens between us? There is awkwardness. And is that awkwardness pleasant to have? No. And then you look back and you say, wow, so if I only just acted and did what I was meant to do, then this awkwardness would have never happened. Not only is there awkwardness, but also you miss out on the opportunity. You later on discover that that person, or discover you, who I ignored, that you are actually someone that I need for my work. And you are the perfect fit for that. You have the resources, you have the connections, right? Or you discover that, and I discovered that about you, and I go, oh, but I can't use you anymore. I can't bring you on board anymore. You see? And then you say, if only I did what I had to do, we would have had a nice connection now. And so this feedback mechanism is always given you because you're not outside the entire order. The order simply responds based on your interactions with other beings. So this order we call Dharma. And Dharma pervades your entire subtle body. It tells you what is the right means by which you conduct yourself and when you have transgressed Dharma. If you lie to someone, you don't have to put effort to feel guilty. It's automatic, isn't it? That's because the program of Dharma is built in. Therefore, when this being gets a consequence, then all those future consequences have to come back to this very being. The act always comes back to the doer. That's just a law. And thereby that demands for me to be there to receive the impact of my past actions. Now, if I drop my physical body, according to Vedanta, and I robbed the bank yesterday, look at this, I robbed the bank yesterday, and next day I die. And I stole money from multiple people. Next day I die. What's going to happen? I'm going to rest in peace? No. The way that the system works is because there was a consequence generated, I have to get a new body in order to get that consequence delivered back. Now, whether that physical body comes, 1 year later or 20,000 years later, that's not up to you to say, because when a person dies, a sense of time changes. When a person dies, 1 second in that moment of afterlife can be here like 1,000 years, or it can be even reverse. For that person, the subtle body who's now without the physical body, for them, 1,000 years or 1 year can be for us, like 1 second. That's how it is. So the whole time aspect changes. So you cannot now say, oh, look, a little child came in my family, and it's our grandfather, who just died last year. People like to imagine this, right? It's like fantasy mode. It doesn't work like that, okay? And so now this is why we have prayers like Pavamana mantra from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 1.3.28, and it says the purification mantra. It says, take me from asat, asataha ma sat gamaya. Take me from asat. Take me from this idea that I'm taking myself, my I, as the body and the mind. My body and the mind is my incidental nature. My intrinsic nature is the light in whose presence the incidental nature comes and goes. Okay? So take me from asat to sat. What is sat? My intrinsic nature. Let me drop those false ideas about who I am. Let me come to my truth. Take me from that tamas. Take me from that cover that is making me not see, not accept my intrinsic nature as the light in whose presence these changes are going on. And no matter what happens here, does not in any way touch me. Take me from that darkness, from that veil, and let me see by throwing the jyotihi, by throwing the light of knowledge, let me see who I really am. And thereby, by seeing that, then mrityuhu ma amritam gamaya. Take me from this idea that I am this being who goes through destruction, through death, and take me to my true nature, which is amritam, immortality. So this whole verse is just saying, take me from who I think I am into who I really am. And so this is why we have these prayers. Now, the next question comes. Now that this Jiva has come on earth, by what means do I conduct myself? What is the experience of every Jiva once they are here? What is your experience? And verse 14 is going to show this. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agama payino nityaha tam stitikshasva bharata. So before I read this, let me take you all the way from verse 12. Krishna started out by saying, there was never a time when I did not exist or you did not exist. There will never be a time when you will cease to exist. Why is he saying that? Because we provided that map from one reality arises the entire world. And what is ignorance? When you take yourself as one of those sentient beings who is now generated by the power of Maya, and you take yourself to be that person. Then he says, that person in verse 13 is called the Jiva. And that the Jiva goes through childhood, youth, and old age. And in reference to knowing that Jiva, the person, the wise person, does not grieve. Now, before I go to verse 14, why do you think, based on this, that the wise person does not grieve? What comes up for you so far? Because Krishna said this in verse 12, the wise does not grieve. Based on everything we said, why?
Grief belongs to the whole subtle body, causal body, not you. Your true nature is just witnessing.
What is it that Arjuna was grieving towards? That which is permanent, amritam, or that which goes through mrityuhu, death? That which is made to change. He's grieving towards the instrument. That means Arjuna did not have the right means of knowledge, did not have the right model. So his only reality about Drona and Bhishma and so on, they are as good as the three bodies. Now, Krishna is saying that these three bodies are only incidental. They are generations, kind of like putting a VR goggles on, and then you see just multiple characters, or like in the dream. A dream starts, projects multiple people in the dream, and you believe yourself to be one of those people. And then another projection called Krishna says you are grieving towards projections. And you say, what do you mean? Can you explain this? He says all of these characters, including me, the one that's saying this to you, and yourself, are all projections of Maya. And who are you? What is the true nature of all of this? It is Sat and Chit, which is known to everyone as evident amness. And so when Arjuna hears this, then you can now pose a question and say, now that the Jiva is in this world, what is the common experience of every Jiva? And he answers that in verse 14, and he says, it is cold and heat, pleasure and pain, and they're all coming and going. And then he says, endure them. Okay, you are given these three bodies, endure that, because they're designed to produce a certain response to the world. So now, as we go back, what happens when your 5 organs of perception contact the world? It generates an experience, sensation, touch, smells, and so on, right? Now, when that experience is generated, you respond. And how do you respond? You can respond in Shita Ushna. That means that's called physical discomfort. If it's cold, if it's hot, if it's whatever it is, there's a physical discomfort. Everyone here has physical discomfort without a question. That's a common for all jivas. And mental discomfort, which is sukham and dukkam. So this means that no one, whether wise or not, can totally avoid physical discomfort and mental discomfort. So if one tries to now say, oh, because I am Brahman, right, which is without any of this superimposed upon it, then I'm not supposed to experience anything. Or the wise person, even more common, the enlightened one doesn't have any cold or hotness, doesn't experience any mental discomfort. Is this true? A big belief that people still carry around. And I'm really surprised. They literally think that the wise person is like parked in some place of neutrality, some peaceful place. And down there, there's a body, and they're watching their body going through this pain and pleasure, physical, mental discomfort, and they're just totally parked in some peaceful place, warm, enveloped, in this warm space, and they're not there. And then somebody says, yeah, but there's a wise person walking here. Who's in the body? And they can't explain. It's like, I don't know, it's just a person walking. If you really want to see the peak of ignorance, then go and listen to anyone who's speaking about Ramana Maharishi. The amount of assumptions that they have about him is just astronomical. Someone even said he died from what? Cancer, arm cancer. Someone said because he got arm cancer, he's not enlightened. Because an enlightened person's body is always pure. If your physical body is impure, you're not enlightened. Look at that. So what are they doing? Go back to those two superimpositions. You attribute the attributes of physical body, tallness, disease, shortness, onto the self. Therefore, when the body gets impure, it is the self getting impure, or you attribute the selves at the features onto the physical body. And thus you say, I want to make the physical body, immortal. And I want to, my physical body is conscious. This is what goes on there. So he's saying everyone will experience mental and physical discomfort. Now knowing that you cannot get away with physical and mental discomfort, what attitude do you take to make it through life journey? And he says, titiksha. So what is titiksha? It's the ability to look at any situation with a certain amount of composure. It's the ability to retain your thoughtfulness irrespective of what's going on in your life. It's almost like when you're in an argument and you know that moment where you know that if I just continue this, I'm going to get lost in the argument. I'm going to become part of the argument. And then you say, no, I'm going to retain a level of composure, a level of thoughtfulness, and I'm not going to go into this time. I'm going to retain that discriminating factor in my mind. That's called titiksha.
Since we are talking about the wise person, right? Can you elaborate more on the cognitive? You remember last week we spoke about cognitive shift. Can you elaborate more? Because I think it's also blurry and I had question on it. So can you please elaborate on what's that cognitive shift? Explain on it.
So I think what you're saying is a cognitive shift in reference to identity. Now, the first thing that's important to say is, here's a little test for everyone. Do you identify with Brahman? This is a very important, I want to see how well you've understood the entire Vedanta. Think really carefully because I'm going to trick 9 out of 10 people here. Say something about that.
To identify with Brahman, I would have to be different from Brahman. I can only identify with something that the goal is to realize that I'm not separate from Brahman. It's to remove ignorance, not to gain knowledge of something.
Excellent, Brendan. Excellent. 10 out of 10. Who is identifying with Brahman? That's called the ego. Ego is attaching a new title upon itself of Brahmanhood, like a doctor. It says, I am now a doctor. No, you're not identifying with Brahman. You're removing the idea. That's called cognitive shift. Removing the idea, the notion that's making me think that Brahman is away from me, that I have to do something to identify with the reality that's away from me. What I have to do is collapse this notion, this doubt that keeps on saying, no, but you have to attain something. You have to get something. It's in the future. I have to release that doubt and say, there is always in the presence of every thought, where is your awareness? When a thought comes, is your awareness displaced by a thought? No, so every thought, by the presence of every thought, it implies consciousness. That consciousness is Brahman. So how can you ever identify with that consciousness? when even the attempt to identify with consciousness, that is illumined by consciousness. I usually say in my own language, you know, there's a fool who is trying to understand what Brahman is. And they're just doing everything they can to understand what Brahman is. And they say, no, I failed to understand this reality. I'm failing. And I just say, it just doesn't make sense. Because the entire experience from beginning to end is known to you. To whom is it known? To Brahman. Therefore, what is a cognitive shift? It is the recognition that wherever there is a thought, including the question, what is this cognitive shift? Wherever there is a thought or a question, that's exactly where consciousness is. That's the cognitive shift. What is the tiksha for you? How do you remain relatively composed when things don't go your way?
Knowing that there are many factors involved, it's just not me. And also that whatever I'm feeling agitated about is also changeable. So I can let that drop and then look at things afresh.
Yeah, you can look at things freshly. In fact, every time something does happen, that is the very initiative for you to look at it differently. And that initiative itself makes you snap out of your prior conditions, like you're looking things in the same way, right? So it's it's a perfect trigger to come out of your cycles. How else do you retain your composure in this world now that you are given a body and you have to deal with it?
Nothing is permanent in this world. It keeps changing, and we have to look as it as an opportunity rather than as a pain.
Excellent. Two words you said, opportunity. Every time, you tell me this in your experience, every time you had a quarrel or something didn't go your way, and you retain a certain level of thoughtfulness, right? That this person might be acting from certain pressures, certain pain, certain conditioning, and it's not all about me here. There are many causes involved, as Aparajita said. All of that you keep in mind while doing the best you can, while thinking what's next. Now that this has happened, what's the solution? Has that process not evolved you in some way? Absolutely.
Yes, it has.
Absolutely. If you notice, it's all actually only those times, mostly those times when you have had a very kind of a struggle, right, with someone or something, whether another person close to you or at work, whatever it is, someone cuts you off in traffic, they shout at you, and you just really have to just say, hey, let me just hold it together. Let me hold it together. Let me not unnecessarily say something that might cause or injure the relationship. Let me think about how this might impact the relationship 1 or 2 years from now. So anytime something happens here for you, it is your opportunity to recognize, number one, it was never meant to be forever. As we just said, nothing remains the same. Nothing will remain. The people you love won't be with you forever. Your body that you admire now, strong, healthy body, in the condition that you have, won't be with you. Your parents won't be with you. Your partner might suddenly change their path and not want to care for you anymore. That also can happen. Your memory won't be as good anymore. Your health will start to decline. All these things need to be accepted because this is the law. This is the order that we live in. And so there's no point resisting or trying to pretend like I am this happy person, all cheerful. Just say, hey, this is a fact. So we're not engaging in positive thinking, by the way. You see, when the wave in the ocean looks around and sees another wave, what is positive thinking? A positive thinking is when the wave sees another wave that he doesn't like, and he says, you know, let me embellish it with a necklace. Let me imagine it's like this beautiful thing. That's called positive thinking. Negative thinking is when you look at a wave and then you start to see all the faults about that other wave. They're like this, they're too, loud, they get it wrong, they don't know what they're saying. So you kind of look for the faults. That's called negative thinking. What is thinking? Just thinking, objectivity. I see the wave. It's got this It's got that, but I don't make anything. I don't superimpose anything upon. It's just a wave. Now, the only thing is, if you live like this and you speak like this, it might not be very compatible with the world. As I said last week, I went on a journey. I went on a plane. I flew. I landed. Food came down my esophagus. Went to the bathroom. Came back, right? People don't want to listen to this. So sometimes you just have to kind of polish your words up. One time I asked my teacher, how do I have a relationship like this now? Because, I see things objectively. And, if I say I love you, you're so beautiful and you're pretty and, all these romance language, I was really curious. And she has a beautiful relationship. So I admire her with that. And she says, you can't do that because there's no romance. You're not going to move forward like that in real life. So you have to pretend that, you still have to use this language of embellishment and adjectives and positive thinking and so on, because that's the fruit, that's the sweetness of life. So this means that's called a balance, right? On one hand, I know there is no such thing as beautiful or ugly because that's your subjectivity saying. But on the other hand, I still play the game. Therefore, it's like an actor, right? If an actor, what makes a good actor?
He sees he's playing a role.
He knows he's playing a role. There's always that little part in him at the back that if he's playing a beggar, he knows that I am not this beggar. Right? This is a role that I've been hired to do by the world. And I will use and I will cry and I will go, oh, it's da 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 da. But I will always keep in mind that I am not this beggar. In fact, the actor loses their honor when they totally immerse themselves into the role, when they totally forget that part of them that says, I am paid to do this job. I am paid for a while to wear this beggar on me, or this CEO, or this teacher, or this student, or this wife, or this son, or this daughter. I'm paid for a while. The moment you forget that, you lose your honor. You insult yourself because you're much bigger than the paid actor. Therefore, you always retain that composure, that's called titiksha, that I am given a role to play with different people in different situations, and I have real no choice but to perform, right, to the best of my ability, to do what is being called for, to adjust to every situation, because I cannot act in the same way in every situation. And every situation that I act, there will be two things. There will be Shita, Ushna, and Sukha and Dukkha. There will be physical discomforts and there will be mental discomforts. And so by knowing that these two are inevitable, like someone said, they're changing. No role remains the same. Everyone has to go through this journey because everyone's here on this place called Earth. It's like a school, a learning school, where you have to do your part and there's no other way through it. There's no shortcuts to this. You want to hear a shortcut? End of the day, you discover there's no shortcuts. It's really hard work. And so you discover also that in verse 15, the question is, what's the relationship between you, the invariable presence, and this world of pain and pleasure? How do you look at that relationship? Verse 15. Yam hi na vyathayantyete purusham purusharshabha samadukha sukham dhiram somritat vaya kalpate. So having spoken about titiksha, a composure, carrying yourself through this journey of life, then he says, Krishna, the person to whom these do not affect, and now we know that they will affect relatively, so don't take this literally, to whom these relatively affect and they keep their act together, who is the same in pleasure and pain, who is discriminative, is indeed fit for gaining liberation. Let me simplify that. Who is fit for gaining liberation? The person who is stressed out, who is constantly, who has a lack of this titiksha, who cannot really hold it together, who gets constantly triggered by situations, constantly angry, right? Every small pain becomes a big deal. We call it a princess. Give me my comforts. Give me my aircon. Everything has to be perfect. Or someone who recognizes that amidst these mental and physical discomforts, they are there for everyone and it's not personal. Who is fit for liberation? In fact, the verse, if you look at the verse directly, again, it suggests that the wise person is completely unaffected by pain and pleasure. That's what the verse suggests. Like I said, that's not true. But let's ask this. How am I supposed to be the same in pleasure and pain? Relatively the same. Now, what Vedanta says is, if you look at the vision of the whole, Ishvara, we said, what is Ishvara again?
Satyam.
No, Brahman is Satyam. Ishvara is Mithya. Consciousness enjoys the capacity to manifest the universe. That capacity is called Maya. What's the nature of that capacity? Knowledge and power. Okay. So now, what is the word Maya refer to? Knowledge and power in unmanifest. That means there's no universe. Now, when that knowledge and power manifests, when it activates, that same knowledge and power gains the name Ishvara. Okay, so now go back. What Vedanta says is in the vision of the whole, that means everything is now a manifestation of Ishvara because it's always just knowledge and power. It's like when you dream. Your dream comes. What is your dream made of? Physical materials or impressions of your mind, memories of your mind. What you know is what manifests. If you know about a person, that is what's going to project. Now, Ishvara is omniscient, omnipotent, that which knows everything. Thus, it's able to project everything from it, including people who themselves can dream. So, in that vision, we say that there's no God sitting out there because we said that projection is everything. So, what is not, where is God not? Understand? Where is Ishvara not? If the whole thing is Ishvara, where is Ishvara not? So in Vedantic vision, there is no God out there somewhere to whom I am praying. And if you are praying to a God, then please pray to a wall, because your wall is also Ishvara in a form of the wall. Okay? So it means that there is no God, because he's not a separate being who's judging you, who's punishing you, who's giving you a hard time, who's giving you lessons to learn, who's spanking you, who's sending you thunderbolts. Right? This is all ideas that were very useful once upon a time, but eventually you see that they're immature because he's not out there in his office pulling out an archive called Silma and going, let me see what Silma has done. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Today it's time to strike her, it's thunderbolts time. Brace yourself, right? And then she just feels this thing, and it's, oh, God is punishing me. Why, God, you're so cruel. Why is this happening to me? This is the idea how we go. So suppose that you have a favorite crystal to which you are emotionally attached and your grandmother gave you this crystal. Okay, it's very precious to you. And this crystal falls and it breaks. Can you now say that Ishvara is being cruel towards you, that you are being punished? There was some external entity who made this thing deliberately happen so that you can go through mental discomfort. Absolutely not. What happened simply is that Ishvara is not a being with bad intentions or good intentions. It is just manifesting as laws and orders in a form of gravity, and gravity's job is to act 24/7. It's not going to create an exception or an exemption for you. It just has to do what it has to do. So therefore, Ishvara not only manifests as physical items, physical objects, time, space, calcium, carbon, potassium, gold, silver, nickel, fire, space, water, earth, etc. It manifests as all physical items. It also manifests as subtle items or subtle thoughts, subtle memories or impressions. Why do we call it subtle? Because I said last week, you cannot see your tree in your imagination. I can see physical activity, but I can't see a green tree. Therefore, not only does it manifest the physical, but also the subtle. You cannot say now, he's punishing me, because there is no second to punish you. You understand? There is no second. See, the whole thing is Ishvara. The physical is Ishvara. The subtle is Ishvara. My thought about Ishvara is Ishvara. What is Ishvara? That's a question. It's also the subtle. There's no second being out there to punish this being, because it's always one being manifesting as the physical, as the subtle, and the laws by which the physical and subtle are interacting together. Laws such as the physiological order. Physiological order, when your body is infused with this law, it's able to respond physiologically. When it's infused with psychological order, it's able to think properly. When it's infused with, thermodynamics or gravity or physics, then it's able to make objects crash and then bounce back out. Why does light travel at a certain distance? Who sets that? That is a law built in. That is Ishvara manifesting, Ishvara's blueprint, saying, this is how fast light will travel. This is what gravity will do. This is what the sun will do. This is what plants will do. This is what amoebas will do. This is how much oxygen lungs will take. This is what plants will consume. This is what plants will give back. This is how far the sun will be away from the earth in order for there will be a conducive life forms on earth. It is the blueprint of all things, in the past, in the present, and the future. So now if you say, I wonder what was 100,000 years ago when we were not there. We lost all that great wisdom. Where is it now? What was 100,000 years ago? For sure. Ishvara. More knowledge and power. What's going to be, and you say, I really wish I lived 1,000 years. I can see what's going to happen 1,000 years. What's going to be 1,000 years from now? More knowledge and power manifesting as forms of 1,000 years. So there will never be a time when anything, the past, present, or the future, is outside of this knowledge and power, which is manifesting as this very moment. Therefore, what we need to understand is Ishvara does not change its laws to accommodate you. It just has to operate. Gravity has to operate 24/7. So whatever happens to me, I cannot now say it is a separate entity who is doing something onto me. Rather, I say, what are the laws? Whatever those laws are, I, as a single individual, have to align myself to them. Psychological laws says, if I think thoughts and I find faults in things, how will my life be? Will I feel miserable or feel happy if I'm constantly finding faults? I'll feel miserable. Therefore, what do? I align myself by looking at the divine order, seeing the cognitively seeing intelligence in all things. And this is the real practice in Vedanta, let me tell you. Because for the longest time, you've always been looking at forms, haven't you? Forms, tree form, sun form. Going science. Science is all about forms. When you come to Vedanta, two more realities get shown to you: intelligence and consciousness. And then your journey is complete. Until the pramana shows up in your life, no amount of quantum physics, quantum mechanics, or the tiniest particles, it's all going to be within mithya, within the order of anatma, not self. It's going to be more forms, more physical, more subtle. You're going to now ask, we're creating two things, aren't we? We're creating self and not self, atma and anatma. We're creating the bodies and we're creating Brahman. Two things, isn't it? You see the distinction? We are. So far, we're saying there's the body, right? The body's here and Brahman's the body's full of attributes, full of pain, full of suffering, full of joys. Brahman attributeless, free of the whole thing. That's two things. So what is a discerning student now going to ask? Are we in Dvaita class or are we in Advaita class? So what do we have to do next? We have to show you that even the physical body, your physical your thoughts, your subtle thoughts, and the physical world, and Ishvara is nothing but Brahman alone.
I'm just curious, or I want to understand what is the difference between creation and manifestation, please?
Okay, so right now, your thought 5 minutes from now is not manifest. It will manifest when 5 minutes comes. So right now, it is unmanifest. So manifest, unmanifest means it is in potential. I mean, it's not that it doesn't exist. It does exist, but it's just not activated. It's in potential. And when it comes, we call it manifest. Now, the word creation is synonymous with the word manifest. So, for example, where was your dream world while you were in deep sleep? Because a dream world is about to come, wanted. We call that in unmanifest. So there was nothing there. If you go inside, if you could be awake during your sleep, suppose this is a little experiment. Suppose you could be awake during deep sleep. And you look around, what would you find in deep sleep? I'm in deep sleep where there's nothing, and I'm able to just to look around. Would you find your personality there? Would you find your desires, thoughts, personality, what you like, what you don't like? Would you find your memories, all the pains you've gone through, people you know, people who you don't know, all the hurts? Would you find anything in deep sleep?
Nothing. I'm happily sleeping.
You will not find anything. Nothing. But because you find nothing, does that mean there is nothing?
No.
Therefore, it is unmanifest. It's in potential because you know when there's a waking state, like now, you and I are having a waking state, where is all of that so-called nothing? It is expressing as a personality called Vyudu or Andre and so on. Therefore, what is manifest? That which was unmanifest. The personality never went away anywhere. It was there in potential. And now, by the waking state, it manifests as a person. And so you can say the personality is created by the help of Maya Shakti, projected outwards. What I mean,
Is it created by Ishvara or manifested by Ishvara?
Use them synonymously for now. A better word will be manifest. However,
Okay,
I want to be very specific. Both created and manifest provisionally would be okay. Later on, I will say that created is wrong because that which is created implies it came for the first time. But nothing comes for the first time. It's either in potential or in manifest. Does that make sense?
that was my question. Because whenever creation comes into my mind, I think about beginning.
Yes, yes. However, there is no beginning to anything because we have this cyclical model in Vedanta, like a circle. You cannot say anywhere in a circle there's a start, can you? Is a start over here? Is it over here? Is it over here? It's everywhere. So therefore, it's not this linear where it's created for the first time and right before there was nothing. No, it was right cyclical like that.
Thank you.
Now, let me help you see Ishvara is not a being who is there intercepting and saving you, because this is our idea. Ishvara, please save me. Save me. Please stop the war. Please don't let this happen. This is how we go provisionally. Okay. In Mahabharata, Yudhishthira knew that the war is coming. And so he goes up to Krishna and he says, Krishna, you're the Lord, you're Ishvara. You're the only one who can stop this war because you are all knowledge, all power. What does Krishna say to Yudhishthira? He says, I can't. All I can do is go to Duryodhana and try to offer him a good deal, a sweet deal, offer him some chances, and it's up to him to agree or not. And if he disagrees, if he rejects me, then those people who are good, the Pandavas, who are righteous, they too will suffer. I don't have the power to stop Duryodhana. I cannot coerce him or persuade him or insert some special thought and make him like go, you know, I think what I'm doing is not wise. Ishvara cannot do that because he's not an external being. He is manifesting in a form of neurons. And those neurons in Duryodhana's mind are misarranged, causing him to think, I can get away with anything. I can have whatever I want. So now which neuron in Duryodhana's mind do you want to call criminal? What is a neuron? It's just, hey, I've got a criminal neuron. Let's go to a brain operation, get criminal neurons out. They're just neurons. The same neurons Duryodhana has is the same neurons that you have. Yours are just rearranged in a better fashion. That's why you're able to have better thoughts. So therefore, he says that Ishvara has no power to stop bad things. It's very simple as what are the laws, aligning to those laws, doing what has to be done, and based on that, I get feedback. And that feedback itself is Ishvara saying, my dear, you're on the right track. Because for you, there's no guilt, there's no embarrassment, you're feeling optimistic, you're feeling open, and you're feeling honest. That is, my dear, the right path. Somebody else who cheats, who succumbs to temptation, though they may appear like this confident warrior who's not crying on the battlefield like Duryodhana, you know, all these men have come there for me. They're all there for me. But inside, he's afraid. He's afraid. He knows I'm going to lose this because I'm not on the right side. Because Dharma, as I said, is talking to everyone all the time. How to have this composure? If you had a smooth life, you would be blissfully blunt. What actually helps you to sharpen up that instrument? It is circumstances that you may not call pleasant. If you think about it, it's only those things that actually serve as opportunities to help you be the strong person that you admire yourself to be today. Therefore, there's no need to say, it's my karma. So what if it's your karma? What can I do? What's the solution mode? God is punishing me. No, he's not. Put that thought away now. What needs to be done next? What's the next step? So this is the attitude.
My question is to your previous talk on identity, right? So role identity you play when you have not yet identified yourself as, I don't know, you have not yet discovered yourself as your true nature, right? Then you discover yourself, cognitive shift, you discover yourself, your true nature. And then you feel that you have to continue playing another role because it's kind of like, you have to continue because you still hold that body and you still have to go on. How did you feel about it when your teacher said that? Because it's another role, right, that you have to play, having discovered your true nature. Yeah. How did you feel? How did you approach? Because as long as it's a role at work, it's comfortable because it's far away. But then in personal relationship, because you know in and out, it's just your true nature being manifested in forms and
sure. So you have to know where do I put this knowledge? Do I put it into my relationship? Do I call you non-dual? You know, you're just a bunch of nothing. You're just knowledge manifesting as Silma. See, in relationship, I don't do that. In relationship, I do my part. I still talk with you. I still have to, you know, resolve conflicts. I still have to, you know, be there and, you know, attend and also take care of myself too. But at the back of the mind, this is all just a nice grand show on the screen, like a movie. So it's two things. And sometimes you have to apply this knowledge more deliberately. Sometimes Paramarthananda says, you know, the medicine of knowledge. When I forget, when I'm kind of, even with the knowledge, and I forget this because of the work environment and and so on, right? I have to apply the medicine of knowledge and remind myself this is just one show going on this big movie, you know, and it's a show that I have to do the best I can with the body that I'm given for a short amount of time. And then you remind yourself, and then you go back into the relationship. You go back and do what has to be done. Otherwise, trying to live this like I'm a non-dual entity here, right? And it's all consciousness, it doesn't work in a relationship. It doesn't work. So as far as the relationship is concerned, transactional matters need to be addressed all the time. At the back of the mind, the knowledge is, this is, I am unaffected by this whole journey. So that knowledge alone can help you as a cushion, as a shock absorber in those hard times.
Identity role, and then now you have to play another role, but from another standpoint.
Very important.
So yeah, sometimes because even when you read Bhaja Govindam, right, it's a pile of flesh, it's a pile of bones, whatever is walking around. Yeah. But then you have to try. I find that part like tricky, because you have to play that role.
You have to play that role, yeah.
And still see the person, and still,
exactly.
That's the tricky part.
So please drop this whole thing about, flesh, you're a bunch of flesh and this or that. It doesn't work, and nobody's going to relate to you. I've tried this for a long time because I didn't have Vedanta in my life, and it was weird, right? People were like, this guy is so high up and we cannot connect with him. And you discover that people are just walking away from you. So you learn that you can say you don't have to say, my body feels pain, my body feels a headache. You say, I'm feeling, painful, I'm feeling sad. Now, somebody else may think, oh, you still don't know who you are. It's not I who's feeling sad. It's the body mind who's feeling sad. But you're like, look, my friend, I went through that journey. It's like the bottom ladder, I tell you. It's like the bottom rung of the ladder when someone speaks like that. When you finally assimilate this knowledge, you know what happens? You become the most ordinary, normal person. You're not wearing beads anymore. No more spiritual mumbo jumbo halo around you. You're just an ordinary person. And that is the real freedom. Because if I'm still in this mode where I have to act, I have to think that it's all consciousness, isn't that hard? That's effort. What's the point of a journey that's effortful? It's supposed to be effortless. Therefore, we can still live and love and and smile and have the whole drama on the show, but you personally know at the back of your mind it's all good. I'm safe, I'm at peace, and none of this touches me. So it's an interplay between the two. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.